I, Paul Diffley, hereby reconvene the Board of Education regular meeting in open session at 5:05 p.m. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the public. We have a quorum present with all board members in attendance. I'd like to welcome the community members in attendance this evening. As a reminder, and I'm sure you know this, but I'm going to say it again, governing board meetings are a business meeting of the board held in public. And although public participation is encouraged, it's not the public's meeting. It is the duty of the board president and/or clerk of the board to maintain an orderly, respectful, and peaceful meeting where all perspectives, voices, and opinions are welcome. Please refrain from speaking out or, saying somebody's name while another person has the floor. At the appropriate time on the agenda, individuals wishing to provide public comment will be called upon, one at a time, to do so in accordance with Board Bylaw 9323. The board cannot and will not respond to non-agendized items, but a staff member will reach out to you on matters that need to be reviewed as appropriate. Item D1, the board met in closed session to confer with legal counsel regarding pending litigation and labor negotiations. No action was taken. Haven Anozi from Murrieta Mesa High, would you lead us, please, in the flag salute? Item D3, approval of the agenda calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? Hearing none, student preferential vote in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Rest of the board
Paper?
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Election of board president, E1. Do I have a nomination for the office of president of the board?
I move
Mr.
to
Diffley, I
nominate
would like-
This is supposed to
Diffley.
be, this is supposed to be the clerk, as I recall.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
Mr. Diffley, you can run this one.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mrs. Young.
I move to nominate Paul Diffley.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. I call for a motion to elect Diffley as president of the board. We'll do this one by one. That's all right.
You want to do comments?
Do we have any comments? I don't have any comments down here. All right. Mrs. Lund,
Aye.
Mr. Pardue,
Nay.
Mrs. Van de Griff,
Aye.
Mrs. Young,
Aye.
aye. 4-1, aye, 1 nay. Student preferential vote in favor, opposed, or abstain.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay. Item E2. Do I have a nomination for the office of clerk of the board?
I'd like to nominate Nancy Young.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded for Nancy Young as clerk of the board. We'll vote by person. Mr. Diffley, aye. Mrs. Lund,
Aye.
Mr. Pardue,
Nay.
thank you. Mrs. Van de Griff,
Nay.
thank you. Mrs. Young,
Aye.
aye. The ayes have it, 3-2. Student preferential vote in favor or opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 3-2. Okay, would
Did
you
you-
change places with,
I think
This is
yeah, you
young.
can just switch seats.
yeah, just switch seats, that's all. But you can leave your candy here.
Taking my candy.
Okay.
Uh,
And switch your nameplates.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
This is your purse.
yeah.
Item E3, selection of representative to vote at the annual County Committee on School District Organization election. Mr. Diffley is the current representative. Do I have a nomination for the representative to the County Committee on School District Organization?
Mr. Diffley, if you'll accept the nomination, I will nominate you if you want to do it again. You've been doing a fine job.
Okay. Motion, any comments?
You'll need a second.
It just required it. Okay.
Seconded. Okay,
Oh, I'll second it.
there you go. Okay, moved and seconded. Any comments? Hearing none, all, we'll go by Diffley. Aye. Mrs. Lund?
Aye.
Mr. Pardue?
Aye.
Mrs. Vandergrift?
Aye.
Mrs. Young?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. A student preferential vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. E4, appointment of district superintendent to serve as secretary to the board. I call for a motion to appoint Dr. Ward Anders to serve as secretary to the board.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments?
Is there ever
There wasn't
someone else that does that? Just out of curiosity.
No.
I had that same question. So Mr. Diffley moved it? Mr. Diffley made the motion?
Motion.
I seconded it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, been moved and seconded. Any more comments? Hearing none. Mrs. Lund,
Aye.
Mr. Pardue,
Aye.
Mrs. Vandergrift,
Aye.
Mrs. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Diffley, aye. Motion carries 5-0. Student of preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. E5, approval of Board of Education regular meeting dates for the 2024 calendar year. This calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Student preferential vote?
Aye.
Thank you. E6, approval of certification of signatures form 3350T calls for a motion.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have one comment. Trustees, please make sure you sign the forms before you leave tonight.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you all together in the same room to do that. So please do that.
Is this the one with all the confusing signatures, Julie? Will you please direct us? See, we don't have to do it over and over again. Thank you.
A student preferential vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Item F, communications, F1. Student representative reports, Alana Elliott, Murrieta High School.
And Alana's not here, so Bryson Rude will be presenting for us. Come on up, Bryson. Standing in for Alana. Thank you. Come on up.
Thank you for standing in for her.
On one leg, yeah.
Hi. One second. So do I just give the
Go for it.
presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So hi, my name is Bryson Rude. I'm the ASB secretary, filling in for Alana Elliott. So first, our academics. So we hosted our first Broncotorials last week on December 2nd. This allowed all students to catch up on their coursework before finals. Our college-bound seniors are working on submitting out-of-state college applications. Seniors received their booklets informing them of important upcoming dates. And our senior culminating project was presented to all seniors during office hours, and they can now access that in Canvas. And we're in the process of finalizing all grades for the first semester. Our Broncos have class. We had a choir and winter band concert in our PSC recently. And we also had a culture event called Taste of Africa, where our Black Student Union and all students on campus were able to come and enjoy cultural dances, food, and just information. Our activities on the ranch, we had a Dancing with the Broncos event, which was for all of our upperclassmen girl dancers. They were able to ask another upperclassman boy to dance with them, and this is a fundraiser to subsidize their dance competition in Florida later this year. We had our winter sports rally, which our theme was kind of just like the holidays, winter stuff, and then we had spirit days for that. And we also gave our clubs opportunities to have lunchtime activities throughout the week. So our chess club brought out chessboards. Our makeup club did face painting and stuff like that. And then we also did a letter for Santa event where you could spend $1 to write a letter for Santa, and we got 430 letters for that. And then, we just did our winter sports rally where we highlighted all of our winter sports and just did that. And then we had our SoCA senior and teacher event, which was a class of 24 fundraiser where any student or staff could pay money to dump water on some of our seniors and teachers. I have our athletics for our winter sports, which we have girls basketball. Our girls basketball team is playing tougher teams and participating in rigorous tournaments. Their record is 0-3 as of December 5th. We have boys basketball. Our boys basketball team has started their season strong. They currently hold a record of 8-1. They won the Norco tournament and were runners-up in the Beaumont tournament. Girls soccer. Our girls soccer team currently has a 1-1 record as they enter their season. As they continue, we wish them the best as they play Division I teams. The boys soccer team has kicked off their season with a record of 2-1-1 and were runners-up in the Hemet tournament. Additionally, as a program, the men's soccer team has jumped up 2 divisions to Division III. Girls wrestling, there are 25 Lady Broncos on this year's wrestling team. There are several upcoming duels for these ladies. We look forward to seeing their success as individuals and a team. As the boys wrestling season begins, we look forward to seeing their skills on the mat. They will be taking on Great Oak and Temecula Valley in the upcoming weeks. And then girls water polo continues to dominate their competition with a huge win over Norco High School 11-5 and Hemet High School 13-7. Our class on the ranch, we had a club tree decorating contest, which was a platform that provided all of our clubs to be able to decorate a tree. We did that this past week, and I believe choir won that. We had a unified dance, which paired our unified leaders with our Broncos with special needs, and they were able to have a school dance, which was Barbie themed. And then we had a canned food drive, which we collected 2,500 cans, which was a 25% improvement from last year. And that's it.
Thank you, Bryson.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
help. Next, Megan Lewis, Murrieta Valley High School. Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. A lot of interesting stuff happened on campus this past month. But the mission at MV, I already went over this, but it's basically to inspire and to continue creating respectful and a better community. And the vision is to service every student every day without predictions. Academic-wise, as a lot of you guys may know, the first semester is ending tomorrow. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really happy it's almost done. Like, I'm only a sophomore, but it's a lot. 2 weeks ago, we had Student of the Month. All AP and IB exams have been bought, and like I already said, we're finishing finals. Seniors are finishing all of their college apps, and valedictorian and Sal, I can't say this word. Like, I asked my brother, I asked Izzy, and I'm like, I don't know how to say that, but let's try. Like, Victorian will be determined after this semester based off their grades. And economics, we had our first round of seniors do that, and they host Market Day. In case you guys don't know, Market Day is where the senior class has this class called economics, and they sell things for fake money, but it's really fun. The ALC activities, we had a lot of fun things. First, November 30th, we had Dancing with the Nighthawks. All of our dance team participates. The winners were Jack and Izzy this year. I couldn't go because I was busy playing volleyball, but it was really fun. Next, we had our winter sports rally. As you see, that looking fat dude was Ethan. He's the ASB secretary, and then Izzy. Our theme was Candyland. It was very fun. We did something new because our ASB activities director got forklift certified. I don't know if I said that right. So one of the memes our students made in ASB was Stratton holding up balloons, kind of like the Up old man. We thought it was funny. I don't know, but I was laughing. I came in late, and all I see is Strat up there putting up balloons. Next, we had our boys a cappella. It's been some holiday cheer. I don't know if you've seen Mean Girls, and that's always fun to watch, but watching boys do it, it's awesome. Virtual Enterprise competed in their second showcase in San Diego 2 weekends ago, so December 3rd they left on that Sunday, and they got lots of awards, and they're hoping to qualify for finals in Bakersfield, and then after that going to continue to New York City. Senior superlatives happened. Izzy, not surprising, but she won Most Likely to Be Your Boss. That's pretty suited. But let's see if this video will play. I don't think it. Oh, it doesn't play. But it was boys dancing. It was fun. Everyone had a laugh. First, girls and boys wrestling is in preseason. Coach Kingman, who's one of the bio teachers on campus, is leading them to preseason victories, and he's just getting them really prepared. They're looking to have their first win against Great Oak on the 1st of January, I believe. Girls water polo is now in Division 1. So I don't know, Mesa and Vista. I think better water polo team. But with that, they're doing really well. They played Mater Dei, J. Sarah, and Newport Harbor 2 weeks ago. It was pretty close games, and those are the top 3 teams in the country. They also played, let's see if I can find it. They played King, and they won 9-6. They had a 2-day tournament December 9th and 10th. They did good. Boys soccer, they currently have a record of 5-1-1. They have a home game tonight, and then they also have a home game tomorrow at 5:30, and that's against Hemet. Girls soccer has a record of 6-0-1 start, and Coach Ebert is doing an amazing job. They are also competing in Division 1. That's really fun to watch, but we can't wait to see what they pull out this year. Girls basketball has a record of 10-4, and they are killing it, and it's just preseason. Valerie, who's a sophomore, she has the most points in carrying that team. Boys basketball, they're doing well. They have a home game tomorrow at home at Linfield at 5:30. Well, home game versus Linfield at 5:30 tomorrow. That's pretty much it. Oh, the video's playing. That was one of our seniors. It's fun to watch. Culture, we held the middle school robotics tournament on campus, and that same day we had, I think, our first ever culture fair. Maybe, I think. But that's where just clubs came out, and it was a built-in fundraiser for them pretty much. So if they wanted to sell things they could sell and raise money, that corner with the yellow table, that's BSU, Black Student Union, and they sold hot chocolate and that stuff. Then Lean Crew had their annual winter festival last Friday, and that was fun. It was really recommended for freshmen, obviously, but upperclassmen went. It was really fun. And then football, let's throw back to last fall. Well, this past fall. I know Vista, you guys said you guys were going somewhere, but we all that talk during rival week didn't really flow. And then Mesa, But we made it to Division II semifinals, and then we sadly lost. But the red zone was pretty hyped. Yeah. We talked about that video. It took a lot of work. Like, we were meeting in our committees, and Izzy's like, you. And then it took them like a good 20 minutes. But with the lights going, it took a while, but that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Haven and Nosy, Murrieta Mesa High School. Welcome.
It's lovely to be back, as always. You see, Mr. Richards and I, we had to come in our Christmas gear because 'tis the season, and honestly, it's a season of giving. So yes, I'm back with another slang term for you all to impress your kids, children, grandkids, whatever this holiday season. They're going to be like, how did you learn that? I'm going to be like, Haven told you. All right, so the phrase is that blank filler word, right, is blanking, right? Are you following with me? That blank is blanking. I'll explain it.
That's like a
You look
Mad Lib.
confused. I got you. I'm going to break it down to you real quick. I got you. All right. So essentially what it means, though, you have to get the understanding first. It's like eating times 10. It's like that word is so iconic that there's no other word to describe it except for that word. For example, your scarf is scarfing. Like, that is a nice scarf. Yeah. Y'all ever write with a good pen? That pen is penning. And lately, Mesa's been macing, so let's get right into it. Y'all see how smooth that was? Okay, pay me. I'll be here all night. All right, so I'm going to start off with our Unified Leadership carols. Our Unified Leadership, like Bryson explained, is one of our Unified leaders paired up with a special needs child, and they came around classrooms singing carols. We also had Dancing with the Rams, similar to MV and Vista. Our dance team paired up with a guy, and they created a dance. Do you see this man's hops? Look at that. She's like 5'6". Do you know how impressive that is? Anyway, we also had Share the Harvest, one of the most iconic things at Mesa, and we fed over 1,500 people. That's insane. And then going back to last time, we had our teacher versus student basketball game. And y'all, listen, I thought that teachers were about to get smacked. I can't lie. I was like, y'all are losing. They lost by 2 points. Mr. Richards was out there breaking ankles. Breaking ankle. I'm not playing with you. Like, he was out there doing what he needs to do. And then I think it'll play.
They're winning.
They're too good. This is why Mace is on top. Anyway. Athletic bulletin. So winter sports are now in session, and I am so excited to watch all the soccer games and things like that. But like Meg did, we have to go back to football season because for the first time in Mesa history, we made it to round 3 in CIF. Okay. I feel like that is just so go us, go Rams. And that's pretty much all to report out for athletics. Academics. Okay. It's finals week. I didn't really have much to report out because everything's pretty much the same. We had our student of the month, had our academic rally months and months ago, and it's finals week. Now, Mesa culture. Okay. So we had an ASL show. Our American Sign Language classes have a fundraiser. They also take unwrapped Toys for Tots. So it's a very fun event. We also had our cocoa and cram for our freshmen. freshman teachers come and they help tutor the freshmen, get them acclimated to the Mesa culture of studying and cramming. And then we also had our Beast Athletic Talent Show, and this was wrestling. It was so cute. Look. And we are Mesa. Go Rams and happy holidays.
Thank you. So Avery Redmond, Murrieta Canyon Academy.
So Haven, is that so havening? I think I got it. Welcome, Avery.
Hello.
Great to have you back.
Good afternoon, everyone. Lots of very fun things happening at Murrieta Canyon Academy. I've had a great time so far. Oh my goodness. So we've had a lot of interesting things. We had a pajama day and the entire staff decided to match. And we had the Grinch, and they would come into our classrooms while we were reviewing for finals and start taking rulers and pens and things to make us smile. It was cute. We also had our Bring Change to Mind mental health club activity. Our aim was to reduce stress right before finals, and I think it worked. I think it was the most participation I've seen with our club so far. So we had some therapy dogs come onto campus for a while, and everybody loved them. They were so sweet. We had a dodgeball to, get that energy out, just get people moving. It was pretty funny. And then something that I was really excited for, we had a table with some mental health resources and coloring books, which were really popular with teachers. I thought it was pretty fun. And then we had, free fidget toys and just things to have fun with. We had free snacks with cute little messages like, "We appreciate you, we're grateful for you." And then on the next table next to it, we had our gratitude tree. And I don't know if any of you have seen the new Hunger Games movie, but we had our event kind of Hunger Games themed, so it was the gratitude games. So the competition was dodgeball, and then we had our gratitude tree where everyone could come to and get a paper leaf and write what they're grateful for, and we'd hang it up on the trees on campus, and it was really cool. So here's some of the messages. Grateful for teachers, opportunity. Mine is actually up there. I wrote, "I'm grateful for the opportunities that this school has given me." And then someone put, they're grateful for having a second chance to graduate, which I just think is amazing.
Cool.
Some of our activities, it's just been so much fun. We had our Fun Friday activities, which was flag football. We borrowed the Thompson Field. And then we had clubs. I was inside planning the Bring Change to Mind event, but I could hear the music club with their guitars through the walls, and it was cool. And then we had a movie night in our leadership room, and my mother, I convinced her to come, and it was cute. We had a gingerbread house contest, and everybody voted on it. Movies, cookies, it was really cute. The picture, our leadership teacher's 9-year-old son just insisted on being included in everything, so he's down there. Guidance and leadership, which is our kind of like our homeroom. We had a door decorating contest for the holidays, and everyone's was so cute, but we have the top 3 right here. So we have the Snoopy on his little house. That was one of the math teachers. The Polar Express was actually our leadership room, and then our Spanish teacher did the little tree with all the country's flags, and I personally, that one was my favorite, but that one got 3rd. And then we had a leadership potluck. We actually had 2, one for Thanksgiving, one for Christmas, lots of food. So super cute. We took our little family picture. And then we have our cookie exchange, also super fun. And I think my favorite part about the potlucks was at the end, we would all make a plate for our favorite teachers and take it out to them. And it was fun. So as usual, we've been doing our posters celebrating our staff, and I was very happy. These posters specifically have had the most signatures, and when we were taking them around to the classes, our peers, when we came back, they were like, well, what took you guys so long? And everybody had something so nice to say. Every single classroom had something nice to write. It was good. Also in guidance, we had a canned food drive for Thanksgiving, and it was a competition. So we donated total 160 pounds of food, which when you think of our size, how small our school is, that's pretty good. There's staff again. They've been dressing up a lot. It's so cute. And all the way on the right is our vice principal, Mr. Rasa, rocking the sleeveless sweater. So overall, it's been pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marie Redmond. I think do board members have any comments for the students?
This is my favorite part of the meeting, hearing the students speak. Anyway, appreciate it.
I really enjoy vicariously a lot of these things, especially when you dump somebody into a pond or something. But it's great, and I get at least a good flavor of the school character and the activities. You guys do a lot of neat things.
I think we are just so blessed to have you right here in the room with us and presenting you this, and we get to see your smiling faces, and I can tell how proud you are all of your school and of your activities. So thank you so much.
I would just say I love the competition and the school spirit comes out in every one of your presentations, and it's just really cool to see you guys. So good job, all of you.
As well. At this time, I'd like to say to the students, Merry Christmas, a joyous Hanukkah, and a better New Year. And if you'd like to leave at this point to do something fun, you're welcome to do it. Have pity on our old folks. Okay.
One more day of finals,
One more
and then
day.
you're free.
Okay, so now we're going to hear from the superintendent. This is F3. Oh, yeah, we didn't do that, do we? Public comments. This will be fun.
We have 10, Mr. Diffley.
All right, and again, I tell you that we welcome public comments. And if you wish to address the board, you are requested to complete a request to the address the Board of Education card located at the entrance to the boardroom and submit it to the executive assistant to the superintendent and board. Each person shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board shall limit the total time for public input on each item for 20 minutes. We can't take any action because that's prohibited, except as authorized by law. Okay, here we go. What I'll do is I'll read two names. The first name is for the first person, to be followed by. And this is Karen Poznansky, to be followed by Jamie Goebel. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Karen Poznansky. As a teacher in this district and a parent of 2 former and 1 current student in this district, my credentials clearly show I have a vested interest in this community and this district. I live here and I teach here. Mr. Pardue, I sat at the board meeting on November 9th and listened to you speak about how atrocious, your words, our students' writing is and how English teachers aren't doing their job. You stated, and I quote, "They can't write. Their writing skills are atrocious, and most of the politics is coming from English teachers who aren't teaching them English," end of quote. It is evident that you also possess a glaring lack of understanding of what actually goes on in Murrieta classrooms. There seems to be a pattern of board members making false accusations against teachers without any grounds to do so. Your statement about teachers was irresponsible and negligent. As a parent, I can attest to the positive impact Murrieta teachers have on students because my own children are better people because of teachers in this district. Our district has many students who are successful writers. My oldest child graduated from this district and is currently an English major at UCLA. However, Mr. Pardue, I do agree with you that we have students who struggle with writing. However, your reasoning is incorrect. As a secondary reading intervention teacher, I have firsthand experience with this. There are many reasons why a student may have difficulty with writing, politics not being one of them. Our classes consist of students with learning disabilities, English learners, foster children who have experienced trauma, some who have never been to school, students who have moved frequently, including but not limited to our military children, lack of responsibility of the students themselves to complete assignments, and lack of home support. This can be for a number of reasons, which may be within or beyond the control of our families. Mr. Pardue, if we're going to talk about people doing their jobs, I'd like to remind you of the definition of being nonpartisan. It means a lack of affiliation with and a lack of bias towards a political party. This requires you to be fair, neutral, and open-minded. You must stay objective and unprejudiced in your decisions. Mr. Pardue, I'm aware of my job description and my role as a teacher. I teach the state standards and keep politics out of my classroom. I would expect you to follow your job description and keep your politics off the dais. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, and Mrs. Gerbil will be followed by Art Amor. Thank you. Amor?
Hi, good evening. My name is Jamie Goebel. I am a parent in the district. I live in Murrieta, and I also teach in the district. And tonight, like Ms. Poznansky, who was here before me, I'm here to address the comments that were made by Mr. Pardue at the last board meeting. Mr. Pardue, you stated students can't write. You called student writing atrocious. Then you stated the reason for this is because most politics are coming from English teachers who aren't teaching them English. Well, Mr. Pardue, I'm an English teacher. I teach English to 6th grade students, and I also teach 37 English learners from all over the country and all over the world. Now, Mr. Pardue, not only do I not teach politics in my classroom, but I do teach my kids to stand up for what is right, which is why I'm here. You owe our teachers, especially our English teachers in this district, an apology for that comment. You also owe our students an apology for calling their writing atrocious, because I have seen my students' writing, and it is far from atrocious. This is all false statements that you've made. In fact, I don't think you've ever been to any classroom in my school, so I'm not sure how you can make that statement. It's disappointing to hear from a board member negative comments about our teachers and about our students. You should be ashamed.
Mr. Amor, followed by Jose Carreno. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Art Amor. I'd like to say that as a transplanted Northern Californian, life in the so-called Inland Empire can be stressful. I have sat through countless school board meetings, both here in Murrieta, as well as in Temecula, which is rapidly becoming ground zero in our state for book bans, persecuting gay and transgender youth, and flogging a non-existent boogeyman called CRT. No wonder I feel like I live south of the Mason-Dixon line. If California has a Bible Belt, this has to be it. It's painfully obvious. For most of you, there is no difference between church and state. You have made it abundantly clear through word and deed that you are hell-bent, excuse the pun, on torching a renowned school district that took years, if not decades, to build, and reforming it to comply with your narrow view of religion and politics. Many of us are opposed to your extremist agenda. We believe it is based in ignorance, fear, bigotry, and intolerance. To this end, we have assisted with efforts to recall a kindred spirit of yours in Temecula. His name is Komrosky. The requisite number of signatures have been gathered and exceeded. If a similar effort is launched here, I will surely join it. Yes, life in this area is challenging, especially for someone like me who grew up in a place called San Jose in the heart of Silicon Valley. Education is paramount there. The Bay Area is home to some of our nation's most prestigious universities, including UC Berkeley and Stanford, also known as the Harvard of the West. Right when I'm about to incline to lose hope in my community of Murrieta, I happened upon this, the latest edition of the Murrieta Valley High School yearbook. A friend shared it with me, and when I opened its pages, I was shocked. The young faces in here come in every color of the rainbow: white, black, brown, yellow. I never knew this much racial diversity existed in Murrieta, and I sure would know it by recent events in this room. I see religious diversity too. How do I know that? Well, there's a young man in here wearing a turban, a headdress typically worn by Sikh men and boys of India and Pakistan. I see a young girl in a hijab, the headscarf worn by Muslim women. Apparently, there's even sexual diversity at MVHS. As suggested by a club called the GSA, my friend says that stands for Gay Straight Alliance. You know, they say hope springs eternal. Well, mine sure did the moment I opened this book. And you know where I don't see much diversity? Up here, on this dais. Don't take it personal, but you're all the same shade and you're probably all the same faith. In that sense, you do not adequately reflect and represent these kids. At least 3 of you have shown utter contempt for everything they stand for, everything near and dear to them. We know what you're up to. We're not going to allow it. We will not let you turn back the clock. We will not let you rewrite history and whitewash history. We've come too far for that. These kids less than half your age, they have a longer shelf life. I hope to see a bunch of them replace you. No more recalls will be needed then. Thank you.
Welcome. And following your talk, we'll hear from Catherine Wehos. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, board members, Mr. Andrews. Well, I was going to talk about 2 things tonight, but I'm going to speak about 3 in light of what I just heard. There's 3 of you up there that are obviously different shade than myself. Mr. Perdue, Mr. Diffley, Ms. Vandegrift. Totally represent everything that I stand for so far and what I've seen in your votes. So the second thing I wanted to talk about is, second now. So on Monday, I was fortunate enough to attend a presentation of a walkthrough the American Revolution held at Murrieta Elementary. 4 of my grandbabies attend this school. This presentation was put on for Mr. Zavodnik's 5th grade class. It was a very entertaining walk through the American Revolution and the events leading to it. The kids were all in period costumes and were involved in activities and games that would help them retain the facts of this historic and consequential time in our history. I found it to be a fact-based and well-presented lesson. Then I was informed Mr. Zavodnik secured a grant to make the event possible. So I'd like to recognize Mr. Zavodnik for going above and beyond for our students and to thank Murrieta Elementary for fostering this important event. The second item I'd like to talk about, or actually the third now, the third thing I want to talk about concerns public comment speakers. So I've been attending board members' meetings since April. And since then, I've witnessed board members, Ms. Vandegrift, Mr. Perdue, and to some extent, Mr. Diffley, being unkindly confronted by those that disagree with their votes. Some of these speakers have gone past disagreeing to the point of being uncivil and rude. In contrast, I have not seen any speakers who disagree with Ms. Lund and Ms. Young treat them the same way. I ask the audience members who choose to speak to please stick to the facts, keep things civil, and remember that these board members are not here to be insulted, but to represent those that elected them. I would also like to ask Ms. Lund and Ms. Young to encourage your supporters to be civil and refrain from personal unkind attacks. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi. Hello, school board members, and good evening. I am Joshua Wias, for that matter. I am a proud transgender boy, assigned female at birth, identifies as a male. I am here to speak regards to the LGBTQ community in the schools, and I'm proud to say I'm proud to be a part of this community and everything about it. From the past few months, one of you had passed a thing that outed trans people in schools. One of you had passed that. When I found out about this news, I was outraged. All of my friends that are a part of the LGBTQIA+ community, outraged. Here's the thing. Trans outings are not okay in my part of it because you never know. There could be parents that don't accept the community or they're a part of something crazy. I'm here to say that this community should be accepted more in counties like this, in counties everywhere else. As far as the trans outing thing, this was passed from Chino, Temecula, and now here. I'm very disappointed to hear about this trans outing thing, and there should be changes in order to keep this community safe and beyond my point. And I have a sister who goes to a charter school. She is bisexual. Her name is Sophie. Thing about it is charter schools, in my honest opinion, are not accepting of LGBTQIA+, and I worry about her being outed in that school environment. I worry about the same thing that could potentially happen to her. That's why I am there to accept her, be there for her as much as I possibly can in my part. So thank you, school board members, for listening to me, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear from Teresa Wells now, who will be followed by Naja Roberts. Welcome.
Thank you. Good happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone here and in the room. It's no secret that Murrieta has had a bitterly divided school board this year. The source of the mess is the three-person voting block of Ms. President Diffley, Nick Pardue, and Julie Vandegrift. Sadly, those trustees seem to have enjoyed book banning and bashing diversity programs. Hopefully next year will be different. The board members who have the most integrity here are clearly Nancy Young and Lindy Lunn. They do two important things that the others do not. First, they visit school sites and attend district events every week. Once there, they listen to teachers, parents, and students. They represent the values of the whole community as opposed to the other three board members who focus on their extremist beliefs. Second, both Mrs. Lunn and Mrs. Young keep current by attending regular professional development training for trustees. Not all board members attend those meetings, but I do know that Mr. Duffley regularly goes to the schools, which is wonderful. And I do congratulate you on becoming president of the board again. Thank you. Tonight, I congratulate Nancy Young, our trustee, on her one-year anniversary on this school board. I would like to also congratulate her on becoming clerk. And I would like to congratulate Linda Lunn for her 6-year anniversary on the school board. I am proud of your service to the district. My heartfelt thanks to both of you for being the voice of reason during this very difficult year and for exercising your First Amendment rights. You have much courage and have stood up to one bully in particular in this room. For those new here, let me tell you that Trustee Nancy Young is a natural fit for the job. She is an award-winning teacher with decades of experience who immediately jumped right in and regularly reports on her weekly visits to school sites and events. She has chaperoned field trips and was even a judge at a spelling bee. She represents the district with the wonderful Rotary Club in town. Linda Lunn is also very remarkable. She was unanimously appointed to the school board in 2017 from a field of 23 applicants. She was elected in 2017 with 67% of the vote. She was reelected in 2020 and ran unopposed. Did you know that Linda Lunn and Superintendent Andrus's joint collaboration this year resulted in Murrieta winning a prestigious Golden Bell Award? This Golden Bell Award from the California School Board Association is for the district's Inclusion Initiative Program, which removes barriers for special education students. This program was presented twice at the state's education conference. Again, I thank you, Nancy and Linda Young, for excellently serving the Murrieta Unified School District. I also thank the support for my opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Following Najan will be Shawnee Roden. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Hello, board. My name is Naja Roberts. I am a syndicated radio show host. My husband and I own the only brick and mortar bank that is a Bitcoin bank in the nation. We live in Rancho de Luz, which is Temecula, which is how we wound up in this school district. And I have written a plethora of emails about the different types of racial discrimination that my children are experiencing. The last 4 of my 10 children are in this district, and as a parent, I am very proud of what they have been accomplishing in the school district. The staff is phenomenal, but there is a culture of cancer here in the schools that my children attend, and I've written letters. So first and foremost, we had problems on the bus. That was about children and the things that they say, not just racial epithets against African Americans, but calling burrito and just the things that are happening. The children have, and they need some course correcting. As of late, I have had a teacher at the Thompson Middle School accuse one of my children of stealing a work packet, of all things. She wouldn't have taken anything, but let alone a work packet. And as the child walked away, my daughter walked away, she said, "It's always the black kids." Now the rest of the class heard it. Yes, Thompson Middle did something. They told me they can't let me know what happened, but they contacted Human Resources. But just about a week and a half ago, I had to take my children for an appointment. She missed PE. When she came back, the class, or the classes, I don't even know how this happened, but they named her soccer team Fried Chicken Watermelon Monkey. And they put it on the board during PE, and she came home absolutely, it was terrible. So when asked by Thompson Middle principal to the teacher, why would you put this up? He told us that his computer autocorrected. Now I do a whole lot of things on a computer, and putting in Munchie never has autocorrected to monkey. And there are 8.7 million animal species in this world, and for children to be allowed to name a soccer team something like that is atrocious. I'm going to use that word. It's atrocious, and it's terrible, and all they're doing at this point is saying rename the class. I am asking this district to put some money, even our money, my money as a taxpayer, behind doing something for not just diversity, equity, and inclusion, but some sort of sensitivity training so people understand that it is not okay. It is absolutely not okay to torture children and have them feel like they don't belong. And I'm very upset about it. And if something doesn't change, a lawsuit is coming.
And following Shawnee is Jameson Rossignol. Hi, welcome.
Sorry, I thought I had to sneeze.
That's all right. Take your time.
So first off, before I go into it, there are some amazing teachers in this district. One of them being Miss Forney sitting back there. That was my son's 4th grade teacher. She made the biggest difference in my life. My son had the honor of being in the video that you guys watched from Murrieta Valley. That was him with the cell phone jumping up and down. He is the freshman ASB president back there, right yonder in the back. He was the Thompson 8th grade vice president. So he is very in tune with everything happening in school. As she stated, and the gentleman, a couple people before her stated, there is a huge issue in the school district. We requested to speak to the superintendent. We were instead given the, I think, director of student services. He was great, don't get me wrong, but for the issue, he was not what we needed. There tends to be an issue with when you do reach out to the schools, it is also shoved under the rug or it's passed off to someone else. The issue that she had, my daughter is as young as the 4th grade. My daughter was just called a nigger last week by a student at the school during a Christmas event. I hope that when I said that, everyone in this room was just as uncomfortable as she was when he called her in front of everybody. I have a nephew that is currently going to school, not charged with anything criminally, did not do anything, does not have any criminal charges. He was put out of school, segregated in a classroom by the school when he came back, put in a classroom by himself for, what was the word that the school used? Perception. They didn't want the wrong perception, so they kept him segregated away from his family, friends, and everyone else. The student who accused him has keys to the school. She frequently opens doors, gyms, lockers, don't know how. There was board members that are sitting on your board now, as well as other school members at court who were not witnesses and had anything to do with it in support of the other student, because both of her parents work for the district. You are here to support all of the students, not just one. If you are here to support all the students and no student is found guilty, you should stay impartial until further. What you do with your personal time is your time, but it does not set a good stand or a good tone when you are standing next to someone accusing someone of something and you work for the district, because that student has to see you throughout the district. There is a huge thing of families being stacked at schools, mother, sister, brother, cousin, uncle, working at the schools. So those students feel like they are untouchable and can do whatever they want. It is a big thing. The race culture is a huge thing. I have been in Murrieta since 1999. My son was born here. He's gone to school here his entire life. He's done everything to be a grade A student, never been suspended, expelled, never even got after school detention. There is a big difference in how African-American students are taught and treated. We have an AAPAC meeting. I've never seen any of you at those meetings. I've seen you. I've seen you. I've been going. I've seen you. However, those meetings should not be segregated and separated from these meetings. We get a text message about those. We don't get a text message about these. I told parents about this meeting. They didn't even know. And this is where decision made.
And following Jameson will be Diana Hanson. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's okay. It's morning somewhere.
Sometime soon it will be. Good evening. First, my name is Jameson Lee Rosigo. I've been teaching for this is my 26th year teaching. This is my 22nd year in this district. The answer to the next question is yes. Shouldn't our school board members be encouraging and supportive of our teachers? Yes. Well, here's a quote from current board member Pardue at the November board meeting. Quote, "Too much politics in the classroom. We're getting student work, and I'm getting student work from some of these parents that are concerned. They can't write. Their writing skills are atrocious, and most of the politics is coming from English teachers who aren't teaching them English." Pause on the quote. That is bold and so wrong to say. I'm going to say it again. I can't believe you said this. The writing skills of most of the are atrocious, and most of the politics is coming from English teachers who aren't teaching them English. They can't write a paragraph. Their writing skills are really, really bad. Their math skills are very bad. And I get it, Murrieta is better than most. All right, but there are still problems, and we just want to be at the top. End quote. Nice of you to throw a little compliment in there at the end. Too late. Too late. Too little, too late. I don't even teach language arts. So frustrating. These disparaging remarks by Mr. Pardue are an insult to all of our hardworking language arts teachers. I'm hopeful Mr. Pardue was able to reflect back on his November comment. I believe a public apology is in order for making these tasteless, hurtful, and divisive comments.
Take your time.
Yeah, thank you. Your words matter, be they positive or negative in nature. I don't know you, but I'm learning. And I want to see something different than what I've been seeing. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Diana Hanson, welcome.
Thank you, members of the board and everyone here for giving me an opportunity to speak. I do not live in this community. I live in your neighbor community up the road in Elsinore. I've lived there for 30 years and I've been a member of this school district and actively engaged in volunteering in organizations there. But why I'm here is because I fear that there is a change taking place in our communities and it's creeping in quietly. And I think it's something that we need to discuss. We have recently heard that there was a rule change, or I guess it's a policy, a state policy that was changed regarding privacy issues with our students. And one of the issues was them leaving for medical appointments. And there was a fear, apparently, by members of this community and on the board that they would be going for medical treatments that might not be approved by their parents. Well, the state of California has provided a protocol and a policy that says that they can be allowed to make those appointments with or without their parents' consent, and their parents are not to be informed. Well, apparently you've changed the policy and written a policy for your own use, and I find that difficult to understand in this day and age when we have an open agenda to speak to these things, and there is a process by which laws can be changed. They shouldn't be changed at committee meetings. They should be changed in Sacramento, at the legislature. We should be petitioning our government representatives and making sure that we have a majority of people who want the change to happen. I think that we should be able to trust our kids to know that we can have open communications with them. They should be able to speak openly, and if they do not want their parents or their loved ones, whoever they're living with, to know about what they're doing medically speaking, whether it be STDs or birth control or whatever it might be that the parents find objectionable, I think that they should still have a right to their medical history being private and them being kept safe from someone who might be abusing them or abusing their relationships. I feel it's wrong to change policy at this level, and I'd love to have a living civics lesson with our kids on how laws are passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from board members. Let's see. No. How about me? Yeah, I think. Why not you? That's a good idea. Want to hear from our superintendent?
Winston, would you put 3 minutes up? I'm going to try a little experiment. So when the timer starts, let's see if I can do this the same way the public does. All right. So this is the end of the first semester. Our staff and students have earned a well-deserved break. I know our high school teams are carefully monitoring our students to be on track for graduation as we move forward and help them move forward their personal goals. This last couple of weeks, Mrs. Young and I, and then at a different time, Mrs. Vandergrift and I have been in the elementary schools, and we've been watching our elementary teachers work very diligently with their students on their winter testing of iReady, and of course, lots of end of the semester celebrations. In October, I shared some information with our high school leaders and then with our principals that we're making a significant shift in what we communicate in this district about high school and what the expectations of school is around college readiness, or career readiness, better said. So there's 3 things I'd like to share with you. All of us in this room probably grew up with the saying or the concept that everyone's going to college. Everybody needs to go to college because you've seen a chart that if you go to college, you make more money. We're actually going to pivot away from that a little bit. We're not going to put college down at all, but we're going to change the phrase. Rather than saying college for all, we want every student to be ready to earn a post-high school credential. Now, that may means that they're prepared, and we're going to help students prepare and plan for one of these types of things. That may include an apprenticeship program, college or university, because those are also a diploma, or a degree is also a credential, service in the military, or trade schools. So we're going to work on messaging that. In this district, 60% of our students qualify for a UC. That means 40% don't. So what does that mean when we don't talk about the 40%? So we want to elevate that group so that everyone feels they've got a place and a home and a path forward that's valued. Because let's face it, some of those trades, they make a lot of money and they don't come with student loan debt. We're going to expand and enhance our career exploration experiences, everything from the little kiddos in kindergarten all the way up to what we do for our high school students, and expose them to a greater set of opportunities to explore careers. We'll also be enhancing and expanding our current career pathway programs. We want to bring them to a higher level, and the phrase there is to an industry standard experience. What do students experience in industry? So we're preparing a publication that will be sent out electronically to all of our parents and students in the first part of January. Lastly, I'd like to call a little bit of attention to this special report. This has been, as of last Wednesday, that started hitting mailboxes and all the residents in the community. On the back is a survey. We encourage everyone to take this survey. This is a report about our district, specifically about the physical needs of our facilities, our school and district facilities, and what are the things that we need, and so we need to hear from parents. So we encourage you to do that, to complete that survey. It's beautiful, it folds out, it's electronic, it's available on our district website, and it's in all of your mailboxes. Careful, you might have thrown it out with the recycling, so just check that. There'll be a few at school sites to reference as well. And Mr. Diffley, this concludes my comments.
Wow.
Wow, and you applauded.
And the next person can have 3 pence extras. Mr. Pardue.
I'm going to try to keep that theme going. First of all, I love the Christmas season. On a personal note, I just appreciate celebrating Christmas as a time for community and family and just sharing the joy with everybody. And I love Christmas. I've had a fabulous school year. I was expecting that this could be a rough school year, and I've had a fabulous time teaching my students, and I've really appreciated this semester. Just finishing my essays and grading quite a few essays, and I get to see student work all the time. One of the things I wanted to reflect on is some of the things that I've been trying to accomplish here as a school board member and representing the parents and the taxpayers of this community. One is academic standards. It is perfectly within my purview to question whether or not we're getting what we're paying for. The people that I speak with, and I get approached all the time by teachers, parents, and believe it or not, as a teacher and married to a teacher and also a son of a teacher, my entire social group is teachers and teachers from this district. I know exactly what the complaints are. I know exactly what people are concerned about. It's not as if I'm guessing. I'm not wondering what's going on. I'm not wondering what the writing skills are, and I'm not wondering what the outcomes are by the time they get to high school. I know. In fact, I think you guys have called me an expert, and my friend group, experts. So I think I'm very well aware of what our students' challenges are. And it is part of our purview to represent parents. And unfortunately, teachers have been attacking us routinely at the dais with their politics. I get the complaints from the parent groups about the politics that some teachers are pushing onto their students. And that's what I'm addressing. It doesn't take a lot to understand that that's what my role is to represent the parents and their concerns. And that's what I'm voicing. I'll continue to do that for the rest of my time. The other thing I don't like is having people address some of the things that we've been trying to deal with. For example, talking about curriculum adoption and teachers who are very well aware that it's curriculum adoption, calling it book banning. It is curriculum adoption. We are adopting a textbook. Choosing is not banning a book. Yet we continually misrepresent what we were doing up here. Outing policy. It was called a parental notification. Has nothing to do with outing. Has zero to do with outing. Yet we continually misrepresent what we're trying to accomplish on this board. And that's purposeful and it's wrong. It's misleading. It's misleading the community. It's misleading students. And we see it over and over and over and over. And the last one really struck home from what I heard tonight. Hiding incidents from the community. I was stunned to hear what happened. Stunned from these parents. I get pulled aside when I walk through the hallways of schools. Look, this is my first year. I haven't been to every school, and I definitely can't get to every classroom. I also happen to be a classroom teacher with a full schedule myself. I don't like the habit that our district has of hiding these incidents from school board members. I don't like that some people have agendas and they're not telling us everything. I know a lot of the things that are going on these campuses just because of my experience. I raised 3 kids in this community. Last night, I got a phone call from a concerned young person. I'll just say that, terrified to say anything because their 7th grade sibling was concerned about what dressing in the PE locker room was going to be like at Thompson Middle School. I'm seeing a change and everyone's really concerned. Am I going to have to dress in front of a girl? I thought that's why you're on the school board, so that we wouldn't have to do this. And I think all the time how these young people, how blessed I am to have been raised in a time in which I didn't have to deal with these kinds of issues. We need to make sure we protect our kids as much as we can. We need to start addressing as a community, where does one student's rights end and another's begin? That's very important for us to decide. And as a community, we should be able to have a civil conversation about what that means. And instead, we come up with personal attacks, and that needs to end. I'm hoping next year that happens. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Young.
Okay, I'll tell you about a few of the things I've attended. So I went to the APAC meeting, and the main focus of that meeting, the students did talk about what was going on at their clubs at the various schools. The main focus was opportunities after high school. They talked about college, tech, and military options. We heard from Elijah Anderson, who's a counselor at Thompson Middle School. CJ Charles, who's a Spanish teacher at Mesa, talked to the group, and I bought her book. She wrote this fantastic book called My Mother is a Superhero. It's in, every page is in both English and Spanish, and it got an honorable mention from the International Latino Book Awards. So you might want to check it out. They had a counselor there. She's not from this district, but I know her because we previously worked together, Delfina Gomez. She gave them college application tips. There were 2 speakers talking about military opportunities, possible careers in the military, and how joining the military can help with college expenses down the road. They talked about dollars for scholars. So if you have kids who are seniors, if you are a senior, we're getting very close to the application period for dollars for scholars. It's January 8th through February 28th. And a lot of kids get awards, and multiple ones. I know my sons got more than one when they did that. And Carol Hernandez was there. She talked about, this has come up before, her play, Rosetta and the Mount Calvary Missionary. Awesome. I saw it in Murrieta. It's coming to Temecula. I think it belongs in New York personally. It's an original script. I went in there knowing nothing. I was so impressed. So please check it out. I believe it's February. Did they say February? I want to go see it again. I'm going to drag in some friends. So I also went to a Rotary Club meeting on November 20th. They had a bunch of kids from the district and their parents. So basically, the Rotary Club sent a dozen kids to a Pride camp, which is a leadership camp. So they were up in Crestline. They got to stay in a cabin. The Rotary Club covered all of their expenses, and the kids, they talked to us. They said they worked on team building. They said, they just gained a lot of introspection and insight from the experience. The parents were also very positive and grateful that their kids had this experience. Several of us went to the CSBA conference in San Francisco, 3 of us up here, and also a few employees because Belinda knows more about this because she was more in the thick of it, but the district did win a Golden Belt Award. So the group, they also did a presentation at the conference. I was really impressed. There were people in the audience from multiple districts interested in implementing it in their cities. She can tell us more about it. I went on 2 site visits to Lisa J. Males and Monte Vista Elementary School. I talked to the vice principal, Mrs. Rose. In the state, they've been having attendance problems since COVID. It's the whole country. So they've come up with an incentive program to try to increase attendance. So now every class that has 96% attendance for the month, they give the class an extra $100 to buy classroom supplies. So I thought that was a great idea. I went into the sensory motor room, which for me, I'm a high school teacher, so I didn't get to see a whole lot of this stuff. But apparently every elementary school in the district has a sensory motor room. And this one had several stations they would go through. Each one had a different purpose. There were a few kids in the room working their way through the stations, not wanting to leave. So I went into TK classes, first, second grade classes. There was a VAPA teacher in one of the second grade classes teaching them how to color between the lines. So they were learning both art and working on those fine motor skills. In another class, which was second grade, a teacher was teaching them how to distinguish between choices and accidents. At Monte Vista, a lot of the teachers working on reading, writing, and phonics. And a lot of the classes, again, the kids were set up in stations. Like this one particular second grade classroom, one group was working on a book about Helen Keller. There was a second book reading a book about tamales. There was a third group working on contractions, another group working on stories on computers, and then there was a fifth group playing a dice game to practice their math. And there was an adult with every group, so obviously the teacher was in the room. There was at least one aide, and I wasn't sure who were aides and who were parents, but there were parent volunteers in there as well. I went to the Project 99 fundraiser 5K walk, which is a suicide prevention program. It was on Saturday morning. People were there bright and early at 6 a.m. And it started, and it's like, again, Linda knows more about this, but they started it in memory of Murrieta Valley High School student Diego Villarreal, who committed suicide. And it's the purpose of it is that so people know there's hope. And I couldn't stay for the actual walk because I had to go to another event. So hopefully next year I won't have a schedule clash. And I also, and one of our speakers brought this up, I went to that walk through the American Revolution at Murrieta Elementary on Monday. And I hadn't seen it before. I was expecting a walkthrough display, and it was an actual live presentation. I really have a lot of respect for that teacher, Mark Sad, I'm just going to say his name wrong. Savadnik. Okay, thank you. The kids were all in costumes. They were divided into 3 groups. It was very academic, but a game at the same time. They had the 3 groups. There were the Redcoats, the White Tories, and the Rebels. It was very, very detailed, the details of history. The kids and there was a facilitator there. I'd like to find out more about where she came from. She was awesome. But so the kids, they got points for reading their lines. They got even more points for memorizing their lines. They had points for wearing their costumes, which they all did. They gave them points for the accents because they had the British and then the Americans from along the whole Atlantic, from Boston down to Virginia. So they gave them extra points for doing the right accent. Yeah, it was really well done. I went up and talked to him too, but he really does a fantastic job. And anyway, I want to give kudos to him. And that's all I have. So.
Thank you. Mrs. Vandergrift.
Hello, everybody. This past month, I attended the Student of the Month breakfast at Sizzler. I visited an elementary school and a high school, met with constituents to collaborate on ongoing board business, did research on board business, and dived into the ethics training podcast by Lozano Smith that was provided to all the trustees and available to the public. So anyway, starting January 1st, 2025, there's going to be mandatory ethics training for all kinds of officials, but it would include school board. And the purpose of that is to familiarize officials with general ethics principles and laws relating to conflicts of interest, transparency, fair processes, and prerequisites of office, among other issues. So anyway, I dove into those, as I said, and so far I've listened to episode 67, Annual Organizational Meetings for School Districts, which of course is what we're doing tonight, what we did tonight. Episode 68 was about citizen bond oversight committees. And from that led me to the website for the California Association of Bond Oversight Committees, which discusses California Proposition 39, which addresses the requirements for passing local bonds with a 55% threshold versus the 2/3 threshold. Related to that, the legal accountability requirements, conflicts of interest, and reporting best practices. So the district and the Board of Trustees have specific duties in relation to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. And in light of this, I believe that we as a board need to really dive into the requirements, that the things that we're required to do to be in compliance and to be transparent to our community. So I think probably we will need a series of workshops to cover this complicated bond law. And for the members of the public and for the Oversight Committee, if you wish to know more about the operation of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, go to www.bondoversight.org, and there's very extensive information about it. And there is an easy to navigate frequently asked questions, which is kind of an easy way to get started. The other episode for the ethics training podcasts from Lozano Smith were 7 things every elected board member should know. This training is for new board members as well as experienced board members. It reminds board members that we are, and this is a quote, we are acting on behalf of the district for the benefit and best interest of the public. We are advised to transition from habits of being doers to our board role as decision makers. Our purpose is to conduct district business in an open and transparent way. I've proposed changes to our board meeting protocols to strengthen our time efficiency and our business focus for the benefit of the public we serve. So part of that would be trying to get to the meat of the business agenda earlier in the meeting. I'll end with thanking the many community members who generously gave of their time to provide input. Also, thank you to the very friendly people I met at Cole Canyon Elementary and Murrieta Valley High School, who allowed me to visit their schools, classrooms, and labs, where I had the privilege of observing true professionals serve our families and students with passion, dedication, and ingenuity. And even prepared a warm, delicious lunch for the road for Dr. Andrus and me after we completed our tour. And lastly, congratulations and best wishes for the future to the students of the month whose stories are always so inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dedal.
Hello, everyone. Very glad to be back. We have not had a superintendent council meeting since the November board meeting. Our next one will be towards the end of January. So come the February board meeting, I'll be able to report on those activities. So far, students are just preparing for finals. I got to go home and study for some finals once I'm done here. And that's pretty much all I have to report.
Good, thank you. Well, This past month has been an interesting month, especially learning about the changes that are happening in the city itself, changes which affect the school system eventually. And it's an interesting time listening to and dealing with these city reports. I've attended several visual and performing arts performances. I won't go into each one, but I want to tell you that the kids are really learning how to act, how to sing, how to comport themselves on stage. It doesn't come from the atmosphere, it comes from the teachers. And I'm really pleased to say that. We have a great many things that we're talking about upcoming, and I'll give you more on that in the next meeting. I do want to say that I have in the past visited English classes here, advanced English classes, and also foreign language classes. And it's very interesting because in foreign language, some of the classes have a unique way of teaching, and it works. And that's the one where everybody sort of sits on the floor in a circle and goes back and forth, and then they stand up, and the person across from them in the room will ask a question, and they have to answer it in the same language. These are different ways of learning than we've had in the past, but it shows the efforts to me of what the teachers are trying to do in order not only to keep up with the changes in pedagogy, but also to improve their own efforts to find new and unusual things to do. I've had the chance to visit with the Latino and also the African American PACs, and it's fun. It's certainly different. Each PAC is different, obviously, but they've been very welcoming, and the food was very nice, as a matter of fact. There are a lot of things coming up that you should look for in terms of concerts and plays. One really big one that's coming is Chicago, being in rehearsal by Vista Murrieta. That's a big deal. It's a big musical. Takes a lot of effort and a lot of talent, and these teachers are not afraid to tackle this sort of thing, and they spend nights here. They spend time, like most teachers do. You don't walk out at 3 o'clock or 3:30, but that's enough. I will have more to say on these various subjects. I appreciate being allowed into the classrooms, and now we will hear from Mrs. Lund.
Thank you. I'm going to try to keep to the theme of 3 minutes. Don't know if it's going to happen. No guarantees. I did attend the African American Parent Advisory Committee hosted Taste of Africa at Vista Murrieta. It was awesome. Tons of dancing. It was a lot of fun. Also, the APAC meeting. I've been to every one since they started, and LPAC meetings as well. I also attended Student of the Month. I was invited by Mrs. Chesler over at Vista to talk to the first year educators CTE pathway students. It's a brand new CTE pathway that we have for students who want to go into education. And just to talk about my role as a local elected official and specifically as a board member, it was delightful. I talked to 3 different class periods. They asked incredibly great questions, hard questions, and it was a delightful time. So thank you to Mrs. Chesler for inviting me to do that. Mr. Diffley and I carved 90 turkeys, not by ourselves, it was with a team, for the Share the Harvest, and gave out another 90 frozen turkeys along with shelf-stable boxes of food for people in need. It's an absolutely lovely day. It's on a Saturday before Thanksgiving, and I would always encourage anyone to come. Anyone who just wants to come in and have a Thanksgiving meal, you're welcome to come in and do that. It's a joint effort between Murrieta Mesa High School and Rotary, which I'm of course part of, and several other groups that do that as well. After having a quiet Thanksgiving with family, I headed out to the CSBA annual education conference, and I'll give an update on that in January. I was out there for an entire week and did a lot of things through the delegate assembly and also with our Golden Bell Award, and that just takes more time. I'd like to do that in January. I'm working on another joint program with City Council member Lori Stone to have our ATP students who are in the building next door, that's our adult transition program students. They are 18 to 22 special needs students who are still with us until they're 22, learning job skills, life skills, home management skills. And they have a coffee cart every Friday morning, tomorrow from 9 to 10 a.m. And they have hot chocolate and tea, and they have absolutely adorable crafts. I'm telling you guys, get over here when you see the blue pop-up tent, because they make all these things with 2x4s. All the 2x4s in my garage, I just trip over and swear at. And someone else looks at those and goes, I can make a pumpkin out of that. And I don't know how they did it, but they did it. Still like a 2x4, but it's a pumpkin. And then they did Christmas trees. It's awesome. You got to get over there. And they serve coffee. Anyhow, I'm working with Councilwoman Lori Stone because she is doing a professional women's conference here in Murrieta at the new Murrieta Hot Springs Spa and Resort in the spring. I believe it's in March. I'll come back with a firm date on that when I know, when I come back in January, to have those students bring their coffee cart and then their spring crafts over there. And the goal is to have our professional women in the community understand that we have a workforce here. Because one of the things that our staff at ATP does is get internships for these kids in the community that they are able to do and work and get job and life skills. Or we can also take jobs in, like stuffing envelopes or putting together kits, some manufacturing kits and stuff like that. So I'm just so excited, and I just really want to do a shout out to Councilmember Lori Stone for putting that together and being willing to work with us on that. What else? I did do the 8th annual Project 99 Suicide Awareness 5K walk around the old Murrieta downtown area. It starts and ends at Murrieta Elementary School. Thank you to Michelle McCarthy and her team. She started this, and she's been bringing awareness and support for mental health in our community now for 8 years. And with that, I will encourage everyone. Can I borrow this really quick? Please take the survey. This is how we hear from you. Talk to your neighbors. Have you taken the survey? Talk to your friends. Anybody else who lives in the Murrieta Valley School District boundaries. Take the survey. That's how we hear from you. You can also find it on social media. It's on our website, but that should have been in your mail this past week. And finally, I say this every single year to our staff, to our students, to our families. Please unplug. Put the phones away. Be with your loved ones, your family, your friends. Across many religions, this is a sacred time of year. And it's one we should all celebrate and take time to reflect. And I wish you all peace, love, grace, and fellowship as we head into our winter break. Thank you.
Thank you. Item F5, Employee Organization Reports. Kimberly Benning-Shevlin, President of MEA.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Andress, and our guests. I'm delighted to share the wonderful initiatives MEA has undertaken this month to foster community engagement. Our involvement in the Murrieta Festival of Trees was a heartwarming endeavor. The efforts of MEA's Member Engagement Committee in purchasing and decorating a tree added to the festivities and embodied our educators' spirit of generosity. Following the event, the tree found a new home with a Murrieta family, underscoring our commitment to supporting those in need within our community. Our active participation in Project 99, the 5K event last Saturday, reminded us of our dedication to critical issues.
Yeah.
Michelle McCarthy, our own MVUSD TOSA and community chair of the event, led the 5K promoting suicide awareness. MEA contributed by providing coffee and donuts bright and early in the morning, serving as a testament to our unwavering support for such a vital community effort. Rail Ranch Elementary School had the highest number of member participants in the race. Gratitude is owed to to Nicole Nelson of Lisa J. Mills Elementary School and her dedicated team for their roles in orchestrating these impactful community engagements. In the realm of negotiations, I'm pleased to report that we are fully engaged. Our recent ad hoc session last Friday centered on a comprehensive review of the district's financial standing. We delved into discussions regarding potential state funding and its potential impact on our employees and crucial programs within MVUSD. We anticipate many more productive sessions in the new calendar year. As we are amidst the joyous holiday season, I extend my warmest wishes to everyone, hoping that this time brings joy, peace, and rejuvenation. Thank you all for your continued support and collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. Freddie Musquez, President CSEA, welcome.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Andrus. We continue to work with our members to address concerns. We are also getting ready for negotiations and look forward to the collaboration with the district and providing something beneficial for our members. I'm going to put the board on the spot right now. We have our January day meeting on January 8th from 12 to 2. I'm inviting you guys to speak to our members. I feel like they don't really know who you guys are. So I think it would be beneficial for our members to see you guys maybe come and speak and say something to them.
Is it here, like in this room?
I have to get it won't be here. I'm looking at Chevallier Middle School just because it's locally or central to everybody. Yeah.
Mrs. Diaz, could you work with Mr. Musquiz to get us the information about that as a formal invitation in the email?
Yes.
Emails are the way.
Yeah. Okay. So I will send the email.
Yeah.
Also, I have invited Dr. Andrus to our annual conference this July. It's from the 23rd to the 28th. I will send out an invite to our board members. We would like to send one or two of you to our conference to better understand what CSEA does. So please look for that. Also, as you guys do visits, I'd like to possibly join you guys so I can introduce you to our wonderful classified staff. So if you guys do have visits planned, you can reach out and send me an invite or something. I'd be more than happy to join you guys. I think that's it. And I wish everybody a safe and happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. We're moving on to item G, which is the consent calendar. Consent calendar has a lot of different items that reoccur every month. Upon board member request, we can remove items from the consent calendar for discussion and individual action. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second. Give it to somebody else.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. A motion passed. Student preferential vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Go to H1, the approval of the personnel report. This calls for a motion.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The H2 is approval of the first interim report and filing a positive certification for fiscal year 2023-24. It's always good to have a positive fiscal report. Mr. Whittington.
Good evening, board. I'm not going to stick to 3 minutes, so I apologize because this budget is budgeting. So
They didn't give you any warning either.
Good use of budgeting. So
Budgeting, right? So this evening, before you have the first interim financial report, it is a culmination of a lot of hours of work that go into collaborating across departments. So first, I'd like to acknowledge our Director of Fiscal Services, Samantha Tumayan, who is the one responsible for pulling this all together and collaborating with HR, business services, student support, and all the different sites, as well as we update our financial projections. Can we get the slides? Thank you. So the budget timeline in California is, we're always working on it as the year goes on. It really starts when we kick off with the governor's May revise. So back in May of 23, that's our first look at what the actual state budget is going to be and then the implications for the district. So at that point in June, we put together our June budget. And then after we've submitted the budget and the board's been approved, or the board has approved the budget, negotiations conclude at the state budget and we get an enacted state budget. Subsequent to that, we typically will have some revisions if there's major changes. This year, the changes weren't too significant from the time we adopted budget to the enacted budget, so we didn't provide that 45-day update. After that, we close out the book, so we have a true ending balance and a true beginning balance for the current year, which is one of the important data points we use as we project out first interim. The next big element is the LAO forecast. This year was delayed because of the state extension on property or on personal income taxes. And so because of that extension, the LAO delayed their forecast. It just was released actually last week. And that's the headlines you've probably been seeing with a $68 billion deficit at the state level. Part of that is a current year problem for the state because that state tax extension, deadline extension, oh my gosh, whole mouthful. And part of that is future year budget implications. So the state actually has a current year problem that they will need to address, and we'll get a first look at what the governor's plan is for that in January, and also what he is proposing we do as a state to move forward. So after we get the January budget proposal from the governor, the next time you'll see a financial report will be at the March 14th board meeting, where you'll be presented with our second interim financial report. So in addition to the economic updates we also have updated financial projections on our end, on the district end. We include our actual expenditures. Those are reported through October 31st. That's the cutoff for actual data for the personnel report. And then the rest of the year is projected out. We also have our preliminary CalPADS enrollment data, which drives our unduplicated pupil count percentage. So those have both been updated in this report. Some of the major themes this year for the 23-24 first term report, the big one being the state budget implications. So state revenue was flat, but it appears that it may be stabilizing. Although the property tax is an issue that we will have to contend with as a state. COLA growth has slowed significantly. COLA is based off of inflation factors, a specific inflation factor for the state of California. That has slowed in recent quarters. We also have cost and revenue pressure in the current year. So you have cost increases that we're still seeing across all areas, technology, furniture, all the things we continue to see continued cost increases. So while COLA has slowed, COLA is the rate of change, we still see elevated prices, and those are continuing to increase. And in certain areas, we still do have continued supply chain strain. One of the other things we're contending with this time around is our COVID funding is expiring. So we had a lot of ESSER dollars that came to us in the last few years. Those deadlines are coming up, so we expect to exhaust our COVID funding by June 30th of this year. That is replaced and can be partially offset by some new restricted funding we got in the last year related to some state grants that came out. And so we're trying to balance those two in this budget. What you have here is our 23-24 unrestricted general fund. So the next slide will be our restricted general fund, and then we have a third slide that shows the combined general fund for the current year. The column on the left is our adopted budget, so what the board adopted back in June. The next column are the changes in this budget report that is being presented, and then the totals are on the right in that each column. Some of the major changes, a big one is a shift in our LCFF revenue. We're making a shift of funding some deferred maintenance projects in our deferred maintenance fund. So we're setting aside dollars to make sure we can continue to provide for deferred maintenance projects like roofing, HVAC, those large unfunded projects. We have a reclassification, so we have a reduction of federal revenue on the unrestricted side of the budget related to Medi-Cal administrative activities. It's really just a change in guidance from the Department of, from DHES, telling us to classify it as local. So it's a $600,000 reduction on the federal line, and it's an increase in the local revenue line. Another reason for a revenue shift is we had to reconcile our transportation revenue. So we get 60% of our prior year expenditures in transportation. As we close the books, we true up what that number is. So there's an adjustment for that. And then there is some activity in our local revenues related donations that we don't project out aggressively what we're going to receive. We do it more on a cash basis. So we do have to incorporate changes related to some donation activity for donations that have been received in the current year and the associated expenditure activity that goes with that. On the expenditure side, we have a reduction in our personnel expenditures, and that's the all-in cost for our staff and their benefits, mostly related to vacancy savings. So when we project out at the beginning of the year, we assume every position is going to be filled on day one. We know that doesn't happen, and so there's vacancy savings that we capture a portion of at this time, because by October 31st, we've either filled positions late or they still remain unfilled. And so we capture some savings there. We also had a slight reduction in our workers' comp rates. There's some savings generated from that. And then on the bottom line, the biggest change, or the $1 million change in beginning fund balance, is really a shift of textbooks that arrived prior to June 30th. So there was a savings last year, but an increased cost this year. So really just a timing difference. On the restricted side of the budget, the most significant change you'll see on the revenue side, and it also has related expenditures, is our Prop 28 Arts and Music funding. When we adopted the budget in June, we knew Proposition 28 had passed, but we didn't have a good indication of what the actual revenues were, so we hadn't projected that. So we've now incorporated that into our current year budget. We have received some additional funding for Medi-Cal LEA billing. So that's a program from the state where we get reimbursement, but it's always several years delayed. So we never know when we're going to get it. And so we recognize it on a cash basis. So we did get about $500,000 in the first part of this year. That's recognized there. And then on the personnel side, again, we have some big savings, mostly related to special ed vacancies that have been unfilled, which results in some savings to the bottom line, but a decrease in our ability to serve kids. So this slide is our total general funds. The last two slides were the unrestricted and then the restricted component. This is a combined general fund, so it's the summation of those two slides. So you can see in total, we're projecting to end the year with just over $113 million in ending fund balance, which is a decrease of just under 6.1 million in over how we ended the year for 22-23. Looking ahead into the future years.
Just real quick, any questions of the board at this point in time? Okay, thanks, James.
Of course. So as Dr. Andrews said earlier in the meeting, we project the current year and future years. And so we also are looking ahead, not just at the current year, what our budget is going to be in the current year, but what impacts we're going to have in future years. So we're projecting those 2 years out. And so there's several things that we're keeping an eye on in the budget office. First one being enrollment declines, which is offset by some TK expansion as the months of birthday months we're serving for TKers expands. Our current year 88 protection for LCFF funding, which we'll discuss in a little bit more detail on the next slide. Trying to promote student learning through maintenance of the level of services. We've added a lot of things as we came out of COVID with some one-time dollars, and so trying to see what we can maintain. Of course, there's a state budget pressure on the revenue side and cost pressure on the expenditure side. So those are both impacting us. And then in the future, a slowing of projected COLA. So even though we're having increased costs and the cost of things remains high, the amount of revenue we're getting off that COLA is also slowing.
What is the COLA, around 3-point-something% for next year? Do we know yet?
So we don't know the exact number yet. The COLA is always built off the last 2 years of it's the implicit price deflator. It's a COLA measure the state uses. And so we have 6 quarters of data. We need the last 2. And so at adopted budget, we had projected that the COLA would be closer to 4%, 3.9 something. Based on the 6 quarters of data we have now, we think it'll be closer to 1%, maybe 1.27 is the highest number I've heard. So it's a big difference in the COLA projection for next year in terms of our revenue. It's a shift of that 3% translates to about $8 million for the district. Big shift. Our projected UPP increase. So as we've had seen an increase in our unduplicated pupil percentage, that funding is generated to us on a 3-year rolling average. So we need 3 years of that data to remain before we can capture the full amount of that revenue. So that will be next year. And then we have the expiration of our COVID funds.
What is our UPP right now?
Right now, it's just over 50%.
And we need to hit that 55.
55% is the threshold for concentration grant funding.
Do you think we're going to hit that after next year or as it rolls? And
I think as we see the community shift and based on some of the building that's happening in the community with new apartment complexes, I think we'll see a shift. Whether it gets us above the 55%, I think it's a little early to say. But I think there is a likelihood as apartment units come into Murrieta at a greater pace than single home units. That's a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Sorry. So in terms of our funding and our LCFF, I want to spend a few minutes talking about the decline we've seen over the past few years and some of the protections that came in during COVID. So historically, we've been funded either on our current year average daily attendance or a prior year average daily attendance. 2 years ago, the state instituted a third measure, a third option. So we would get funded now at the highest of one of these three. And that new one was the average of the prior 3 years average daily attendance. And so what you have here on this chart, the top red line is our enrollment for each year. And of course, it's projected in the 2 out years. The bottom yellow line is our actual average daily attendance. So the amount of kids actually coming every single day. And then the green line in the middle is where we were funded. So whether it was current year, prior year, or the average of 3 years, that's where that green line represents. The 21-22 and 22-23 green line is that, and actually 23-24 as well, are all that average of the prior 3 years. The reason they're so inflated is because heading into the pandemic, that first year of COVID, there was no measure for the state to capture ADA because we didn't have in-classroom instruction. And so we got to hold our prior ADA, which was a much higher number. We got to roll it forward. So we got the benefit of several years ago's ADA to weather us through. And so it's a difference of in 21-22 getting funded for an additional 1,600 students that weren't here. In 22-23 was just over or almost 1,450 students that weren't here. And in the current year, we're getting funded for 739 students. So we're getting funded at a level greater than our actual attendance we're generating. So in the current year, it's about $8 million we're getting in additional funding to support our programs for students that we wouldn't normally get. In 24-25, those very high attendance years fall off because that 3-year rolling average. And so we will be funded most likely on our actual current year ADA. The other important element of this is our capture rate, our attendance rate. So those are the boxes at the bottom. 21-22, we had a 91.42% attendance rate. 22-23, it ticked up a little bit to 92.34. In the current year, we have projected that it will be a 93% attendance rate. The data we're looking at is a little bit higher, 93.5%. And then in the out years, we project that we will get 93% attendance rate. Historically, Murrieta has had a capture rate or an attendance rate of 95.1%, so a much higher rate than even this, but we've seen a decline in.
So just for trustees, that is always the target is 95% is the attendance rate, and that's where we were pre-pandemic. So we're still kind of overcoming what is the perception about attending school and its importance of attending school with families for the purpose of learning. Because we also recognize when they're not at school, they're not learning with us, but there is a financial cost to the budget as well when they're there. So it's a goal to improve our attendance rates to hit the target of 95 and fully return.
And so one of the other reasons I put this slide in here for this reporting period is I know the questions come up of what would it be beneficial for the district if we shift to an enrollment-based funding model. And that would be true as long as the amount we're getting per pupil doesn't change. But because the state's pie is limited, the funding rate would probably go down for us in Murrieta because our capture rate is actually much higher than the statewide average. So if you look at 21-22, when we had a 91.4 attendance rate, the state's attendance rate was below 90. Mm-hmm. In 22-23, when we had 92.34, the state was at 91%. So because our capture rate of attendance is much higher than the state's average, an enrollment-based funding model without an increase in the per pupil amount would likely hurt us as a district. We would be a loser, for lack of a better term, in that funding scenario. Mm-hmm. Any questions there?
And is that going to happen, or is Is that going to enrollment versus ADA?
I don't believe so, but we will see what the governor brings forward in January.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm hearing grim news, though, generally, in the sense of our outlook in the next few years. And also, I do think that trend is going to be harder to break to get back to 95, just because attitudes have shifted dramatically.
Yes, agreed. A shift in 1%. So in 24-25, we had our attendance rate went from 93% to 94%, would generate about $2 million extra funding in terms of revenue for us. So no additional work. We staff based on enrollment anyways, and it would be more revenue we'd be able to capture as a district to support other things. So as I mentioned earlier, some of our COVID money is expiring in the current year. And so I wanted to provide a list of some of the things where we are funding currently out of that COVID money and some of the things that we funded in years past. And so the big one is supporting lower class size and reducing combination classes where we can. During COVID, we used, or with the COVID dollars, we implemented a resident substitute teacher. That's really going to be a cost neutral thing we can carry forward as a real practice change. We have funded secondary school inclusion sections, so our unified sports activities and our unified leadership, professional development for staff, high school credit recovery, social and mental health services, summer school, TK aids. We used the ESSER dollars to fund a lot of student and classroom technology, so a lot of student devices in terms of carts, and then also new projectors and projections. We funded some administrative TOSAs currently, and then also our elementary PE teachers and aides, in addition to our middle school additional academic sections. So we provide some funding for extra sections, FTEs for extra sections. And then some of the things we did early on that we had spent some of the ESSER money on that we haven't done in several years: tents, portable AC units, filters, and filter upgrades, some nursing and clerical staff for the mandated testing and tracing we did a couple years ago, and then an FTE allocation for disabilities, which the practice we ended and replaced with our professional learning teams. So all of those factors build into a multi-year projection. What you have here is the bottom line, what our ending fund balance is, projected in the current year and the 2 out years. And so you can see in 23-24, we're projecting that $113 million ending fund balance, and you can see it declines fairly rapidly into 25-26, ending at just under 65 million in ending fund balance. What's important to note here is we will see a decline in our ending fund balance in any scenario we have going forward, and that's because we've received a lot of restricted dollars in a year past that we'll have to spend down. So if you look at our components of ending fund balance, the second line is our restricted funds. In 23-24, we have a balance of over $44 million of restricted programs that we've already recognized the revenues for those programs. So as we spend them, we will deficit spend to spend them. We're spending down the balance that we have sitting in the bank. And so you can see over the 2 out year period, that balance drops to just under 29 million. But to get it there, we have to deficit spend in those years. So we will be in a deficit spending mode on the restricted side. The more important number to watch is the unassigned and committed for budget uncertainties line at the bottom, that goes from just under 55 million to just above 22.5 million in 25-26. And so we need to be able to stay above water, but we will see our ending fund balance decline as our restricted balance declines back to its historical normal level, which is a couple million, not even tens of millions, it's a couple million. Questions?
Sorry, I keep turning my microphone off. How does this compare to where we were in the Great Recession, 29, 10, 11?
These numbers are huge compared to where we were in the Great Recession. We're positioned very well for an economic slowdown at this point. Having $113 million ending fund balance is the largest ending fund balance this district has ever had.
Okay.
In the history I know of during my time here and my time at the county when I was doing fiscal oversight, it's a large ending fund balance, and it's a large in terms of dollars, but it's also large in terms of percentage. It's like a 35% ending fund balance, which is a large ending fund balance.
I was very pleased at that time to watch our unions, our associations work with our negotiating teams to really come together on how are we going to get through this. And I believe we did not pink slip anybody. Is that correct? Yeah, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And I mean, that's a huge thing. Nobody lost their jobs. And that was a much more grim situation than we're looking at right now, correct?
I would say it's a serious situation we're looking at
serious
right
situation,
now,
right?
We have slowing revenue growth and our expenditure levels a lot higher, but we are better. I would say we're in a better position than we were in 2008. So everything requires action and a response. And so that's something we'll work on between now and our next budget presentation as ways we can shore this up.
Okay.
But I would say we're much better positioned to absorb the revenue loss than we have been in past. These revenue projections, or these fiscal projections, also incorporate the lower COLAs. So we've already taken into account a much lower COLA in our projections. So we projected in 24-25 a 1% COLA, and we projected in 25-26 a 2% COLA. At adopted budget, they were much higher numbers, 4% and 3%, I think, were the numbers at adopted budget. So we've already taken into account to absorb some of that reduction in revenue. And you can see we will still continue to have to make some changes to balance our books, but we have plenty of time to make those corrections. And the sooner we do them, the less severe those corrections have to be.
Thank you.
It was much more stable here than the district I was in. They had both lots of pink slips and people had 10 days furloughed. Were they furloughing here? You did furlough. It's better than laying people off.
I just wanted to clarify really quick. Were you saying that we have the projection is worse than 2008? That it could be worse than 2008? Or are you just saying we're in a better position to weather whatever we're seeing, but what we're seeing is significant?
The latter, yes. So in 2008, we hadn't had this buildup of a major ending fund balance that we have today. So today we have a much better savings account, for lack of a better term, that we're going into tough economic times with. In 2008, we've had very slim budget reserves, and then times got really tough. And so we're better positioned, but there will still be tough economic times ahead.
There are tough economic, that's what I wanted to hear. Yes. I expect it as well.
Yes, and so I think while this budget incorporates some of the revenue reductions, there is still time to make some of the expenditure reductions and right size the budget to where it needs to be.
And you would also agree that the COVID list you showed are things that are kind of at risk, or things we are going to have to decide what to do because those COVID funds are going away.
Those are items that, because of the COVID money expiring, we need to find a home for them or make them go away. Yes. Questions? Or I guess look at alternative ways of providing that same level of service. We're really in a situation of we do not need to make severe cuts today, but we need to start making decisions of, are we going to fund this or that? And so I think it's a matter of balancing. We're at a point where we are balancing priorities so that we can make good decisions early instead of having to make tough decisions later on. So future considerations and next steps, like I said, the governor will propose his framework for the state budget in January. So the things I'm looking for is his solution to the 22-23 revenue miss. Will he overfund and overappropriate Proposition 98, which he's allowed to do and probably would be the popular thing to do? Or will he right size that and try to claw back revenue in the current year, which we do not believe will happen. We think it would be highly unlikely. We'll be looking for whether he's protecting the education investments to date. The last few years, he's made a lot of investments in education in both the base program in terms of funding robust COLAs and some niche programs like the after-school program and some of the other programs we don't get to participate in beyond that. The other thing I'm looking for are some of those distraction conversations. I think if we see the governor talking about enrollment-based funding, that's a sign that he's looking for other conversations to have than the $68 billion funding deficit. So we're looking to see what other things he's saying, both what he's saying and what he's not saying, I think is the key thing I'm looking for when we see his budget presentation in January. Once we have that, go ahead. Once we have that framework, we'll update our budget and incorporate whatever changes we think will happen, and we'll have better economic data at that time. And that will be presented to you guys at the March 14th board meeting in our second interim update.
Going for a moment into the visual and performing arts that was passed, money passed by the state, how does that change year to year?
So Proposition 28 is I think the funding you're referring to.
Yes.
And that funding is formulaic. It's in the Constitution, so the governor cannot manipulate the amount that's funded into that program. But it's a formula that is 1% of the Proposition 98 budget. And so as Proposition 98 changes, which is what all K-12 education is funded out of, that affects the amount of funding we'll get through Proposition 28 in the visual and performing arts.
Okay, so there is okay, I see.
So it's protected, but it will change as Prop 98 changes.
Yeah.
So what that translates to us is if Prop 98 budget goes down, then the Prop 28 Visual Performing Arts Fund will go down. But yet we have hired staff because it's an 80% of that money has to be in staff. And so it doesn't. So if that goes down, we've already committed to people to teach those classes. And so we end up we may have to pick up the slack somehow. That'll be, I mean, the cushion is happening at the state level, but when it comes down to people in our classrooms, that's where it kind of meets.
Not so much.
Yeah. So those may be some times when, the part of the money that's not set aside for people, we have to go into that to make sure we save our people. We're not buying extra tubas.
Yeah.
But 1 year when the budget's larger, we can keep our people and there's more money to buy instruments or lighting or whatever is the materials that we need.
Yeah. One of the other things we've done is we get that funding in the current year, and we've held back allocating it out to the site so that we will have a roughly 1 year cushion. We've let some supplies for the arts go forward. We've let sites spend out 10% of their allocations. So we're holding back about 90% so that we can help build some cushion in at our level too. So in those years where the Prop 98 level drops below what we can support in staffing, we'll have prior years to reach back into and use that in fund balance.
Because we don't want to be in a position where it gets low and then we're cutting positions the next year trying to come back and build it back up.
Yeah.
So we're trying to build that little bit of reserve to keep that element steady, even though that's. And the nice part is, it's true, as James said, is that the state budget cannot go back and claw back or move that money somewhere else. So that was a nice feature of that proposition.
The state has a lot of tools. They don't have to follow accounting guidance. If you remember back in the day of deferrals, what they did is they deferred payments and didn't score it in that year. So they accounted for it in a different year. We counted for it in the right year. And so the state has a lot of tools at their disposal they can use. But a $68 billion hole is a large hole to shore up. And so we'll see what comes out in January from the governor. Of course, we are headed into negotiations with our labor partners, and we have a desire to remain competitive. And so that's something that we'll have to consider as we move forward. And then any future legislative changes that may come our way as the legislature brings forward all kinds of things. So with that, we are presenting a positive certification that the Murrieta Valley Unified School District will be able to meet its financial obligations for the current year, 23-24, and the 2 successive fiscal years. So that's what is before you tonight. Are there questions?
Questions, board?
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Of course.
Very extensive. Well, this is H2, approval of the first interim report and filing a positive certification for fiscal year 23-24. I call for a motion to approve the first interim report and filing a positive certification for fiscal year 23-24.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And student preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. H3, adoption of resolution number 23/2411, acknowledging remaining school facility program bond authority is currently exhausted for funds being requested on Avaha and Alta Murrieta modernization funding. This calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Passes 5-0. Student preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. H4, approval of 2024 annual renewal of services between Super Co-op Lead Agency San Mateo / Foster School District and Murrieta Unified School District. This calls for a motion.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Student preferential vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. H5, review of investment report for the quarter ending September 30th, 2023. The board has received this information for review. And also H6, we received the information for the review of associated student body financial reports for the quarter ending September 30th, 2023. That's the letter I with a dot. I hereby adjourn the Board of Education annual organization meeting at 7:15 p.m. and proceed to item J, Educational Facilities Corporation meeting. Julie Vandegrift will lead us through that.
Mr. Dipley, could I ask a question first? Why didn't we have to have a motion to adjourn the board this time? Got it. Okay.
All right, so I call to order the regular meeting of the Murrieta School District Educational Facilities Corporation at 7:16 p.m. I will ask for president, vice president, and secretary nominations separately. Do I have a nomination for president of the Murrieta School District Educational Facilities? I call for a motion.
Sorry.
So I call for a motion to elect someone as president of the District Educational Facilities Corporation.
Wants to do it.
Currently, it's Mrs. Vandegrift, so it can be her
I
again.
served last year.
Okay.
Can you tell us?
Yeah, very hard.
Thank you
Do
for
you want me to
volunteering.
Sure.
Okay, I'll move
Appreciate
Julie
it.
Vandegrift.
Okay.
Right. I'm sorry.
We need a second.
I second.
Okay.
And any comment?
No.
Great job.
Great job. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Do I have to ask?
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
So the student preferential vote first. Is that what I do here?
Aye.
Thank you. So all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Okay, so do I have a nomination for vice president of the Murrieta School District Educational Facilities?
I'll nominate Nancy again.
I nominate. Yeah, Nancy. Good job. I second. Sorry, I didn't realize I missed it. Yeah, second.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
It was
Yeah.
seconded.
Oh, that's right.
Nick seconded it.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay. So comments?
Good job.
All right. So student preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion carries 5-0. Do I have a nomination for secretary of the Murrieta School District Educational Facilities?
I nominate Linda Lund.
Do we have a second?
Can we decline? Just kidding.
No.
I'll second it.
That's unpatriotic.
All right. Comments?
Awesome pick.
Student preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Defay, I just want to make one quick comment. The portion of this, we don't have to do much work with this group very often, but on occasion, when a school district is required to build buildings in an emergency and we have to borrow money, this organization, as the corporation, kicks in to go out and borrow money. We participate in what's called a certificate of participation, which is school language for a mortgage. And so in the past, this district has had to do that
Okay.
and borrow to finish buildings. And then when a bond was passed, pay it back. And this body took action. So there is a function for this. It's just right now, there's no business to be done.
If we're going to be indebted, I withdraw my vote. Don't you? We've done that before. I remember signing a check from the bank for $52 million.
No.
I could see my home just sort of disappearing, but it turned out all right.
All right, I call for a motion and a second to adjourn the Educational Facilities Corporation meeting at 7:20 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
And that completes both meetings.
Are there comments?
We didn't vote. Oh, sorry.
Oh, student preferential vote?
Aye.
And all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
I apologize.
meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Mrs. Vandegrift.
All right.
No, Paul.